Hello guys, Buckskin Dave here. Well, I'm going to work on this patchbox a little today. I got her set in the vise good. I had to cut a little angle piece in here so it's set in the vise. I got my this part of the stock, I got it finished down to about 150 grit, which is good just so that I can get my pattern. I'm going to put this is one of those, here's the door. This is one of those pineapple style patchbox that was popular in the day. And so we're going to put that on there. They're kind of the easiest patchbox to build on there. They're a very easy one. Basically, you cut it out, cut this out, and then you cut the hole for the volume of it, with just a shelf around the edge for the door to lay against. And then it has a little clasp on it and a little hinge that gets screwed inside there. And I don't really use the patchbox much on my rifles, so I don't care if there's one on or not. I've got this one. I want to put this one on here. So it's going to go on. You have to bend this so that it has the contour of the stock before you copy it, so you don't make your hole too big. And I've done that, and I'm actually just about ready to cut it. I've got it drawn on there, a tad smaller than this, and I always cut to the inside line because you can always make it bigger, you can't make it smaller. So I'm going to start working on this, and you guys can watch a little. I don't know if you learn anything. I learn something every time I do something like this. Usually it's the hard way. But the first thing I'll do is I'll put a line around with a knife. I'm going to check my knife, make sure it's nice and sharp. I'll put a line down with the knife and I'll start working it away with a chisel until I get the depth that I want, and then I'll work it into the inside of the patch box. One of the things I like, I have guns that have little push buttons, you know, that type of patch box, and sometimes the button gets pushed and whatever you got in there goes out into the wilderness. What I usually keep in my patch box is some cleaning patches and the cleaning jag. And the only reason I keep the cleaning patches in there is to keep the jag from rattling around. And I've really gotten to trust the type of clasp that's on this type of patch box, not to come apart. It's not something you push. You almost have to push it against the spring and let it go. So anyway, stick around. We'll cut this out and I'll keep you appraised as we go. So a couple of things that I try to do, and I didn't here, is one, when I'm cutting my edge, I try to always cut into a spot that's going to be chiseled out anyway. Because if you slip, then you come out into this surface wood here and you're going to have to sand it out. When I finish this surface is a little bit elevated because I know I'm going to slip. So I can still sand a little bit and let it deeper, and I can still sand a little bit off of this and still not lose the shape. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is I like to work into, like here's my edge I'm working right now. I work into this because this is all going to be cut out of here. So it doesn't matter what I do if I slip or whatever. I don't want to slip into the edge. I want a nice clean tight edge so I get a good fit. So I work from where my edge is, where I cut, and without slipping I try to. And this is where your tools got to be really, really sharp. If they're dull, you'll push, and then all of a sudden it'll bite, and there you'll be. And I take out very little material each time. It takes a while to get this done. And with this, I'm trying to work it back flat here because we're going to be eventually trying to make that shelf for the door of the patchbox to rest on when it's closed. And then sometimes I chisel deeper than my cut is, so I got to come back to take these flakes out of here. And I'll work this back to here, and I got this already worked, and then this star I'll take my time, and then I'll cut it again deeper and work it back with the chisel. Okay, so my first fitting, it's not too bad. I had one mistake right here. I'll have to patch it. It's almost to depth here. It's to depth all the way around. I'll probably file it. And I had to use my black, my lamp black, on this edge here because this in the center is coming out. This is coming out. But this has to this shelf has to kind of be the same depth as this metal, so when the door closes, it doesn't stick out or sink in. It'll be level. So now I'm going to have to fiddle, and I'll draw my shelf. Pencil. I'll draw my shelf here, kind of mark it in. Maybe 1/8 of an inch shelf. So anyway, I'll draw that all the way around. This here is going to be the same depth as the box. And I'll draw my shelf, and everything in the middle of that's going to come out down to the depth. Like I say, about 1/8 of an inch. I think I like. You can make a 1/16, but that's cutting yourself a little thin. I'll say 1/8. You can always cut it down if you want to make it a little bit thinner shelf. So now everything inside here is going to get cut out to depth, and then this here will have to be cut all the way to the bottom also, because that's where your hinge is going to screw into the side. So I'm probably going to quit for a little while and come back. My hands are getting tired, and your hands get tired and you'll have a slit. So anyway, she's looking pretty good. The rest of this will just be done with a hammer and chisel down to the thing, and that'll be good. Okay guys, so I started work without you this morning. I went ahead and screwed this plate down for 2 reasons. One, that gives me an idea where I've got to do some trimming. It come out really pretty clean. The other thing is this inside shelf here, I really need to make sure this shelf inside here and over here, it's got to be right so that this sits flat on it. And so see, I got that where I really like that shelf. You might need to be might have to bend that patchbox just a little bit, the surface of it, but it might bend in just as it snaps in. So now what I've got to do is I got to continue cleaning this out. You know, I was thinking what would be really cool is if instead of hollowing this out into a deal, just make a hole here for or an inlet here for your cleaner, your cleaning jag, and then make an inlet for what other tool that you wanted to store in here so it don't rattle. I'll probably just go ahead and clean it out like they did. And then the guy could put whatever he wants in here, cap boxes with some caps, or cleaning jag, or patches, or whatever. So I'm about a 1/2 inch deep. Depending on what you want to put in here, let's see. Here's a 58 caliber cleaning jag. So if you want to put this in here, you might have to go a little bit deeper. I'm thinking what I want to do is not go too deep here. This is just going to be a patch box for ornament, but it'll still have patches in it or whatever. Now, I've cut this hinge plate. I have to drill some holes, but I want to make sure that it's fitting. Really, dang, wow. That's a really good fit, and then I'll have to cut my clasp in right here. But that's going to look good. So, now that I'm to this point, I need to drill 2 holes there, 2 holes there, and get this in. And then I just got to trim this in here, make it fit. Clasp. Well, let's get the drill press. Let's get the drill out and drill that in holes. Okay, so I don't have we got it in there. We got this screwed in. It's fit. Had to fill that up a little bit back there to get it level. I knew that I had to, there's a curvature right here, and I knew that I had to work with that, but it was a little bit, it's still a little bit off, but it's gonna eventually work. So now I have to put a clasp here, and I'll probably put a spring, so when you pull this clasp, it springs open, and then it's pretty tight, so I'll probably have to trim that when I take it out. And the hinge is a little squished, but that's pretty good fit once I put the clasp on. So anyway, the way this works is there's 2 springs. One of them flips the door open, and that's a little tight, it needs some work. One flips the door open, it goes here. The other one catches it and holds it closed, and it goes right here. I never seem to break these that flip it open, but this one that holds it closed, every time I try to fit one of these, because you got to fit them just precise so it'll close it right at level here, you know. It's got to have a little bit of, you know, got to have a little spring to it, but it's got to be closed so that it's flush. Well, I broke it, and I don't have another one, so I called Terry over at Muzzleloader Builder Supply, and she's getting one on the way to me. This is about, I made this cavity about a 1/2 inch deep, and I had to go probably another 3/8 to, you can see the hole there, to do this clasp. So I'll probably lower this a little bit more, the floor of this door. So anyway, that's about it for this episode. I'm going to start working on something else, probably start doing some more finish work on it until I get that. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for stopping in. We're going to finish this thing one day. Bye-bye.